Hello and welcome to our National Mentoring Month coffee hour for the Elements of Effective Practice 5th edition unveiling. This is going to be an introduction to the new elements, and I will make sure that there is time for any questions you may have. So we're going to go ahead and get started. This is going to be the introduction to the 5th edition of the Elements of Effective Practice for Mentoring. We do have the entire title here since it's copyrighted by Mentor National. We're going to review a very brief history of the EEPM and why the time is right for a new edition, overview the content and new information, and how to access and use this tool in your work. Some housekeeping, we are recording this session, but there will be time for questions at the end. You can also ask questions in the chat, and Chad will be my chat champion. And the new resource can be found on Mentor's new website, eepm.mentoring.org, as well as on our website through your mentoring professional dashboard. So what is the elements of effective practice for mentoring? It is evidence-informed guidance for mentoring programs. So the elements of effective practice were built around a series of key practices that programs should strive to implement in their work. It emphasizes staff tasks that support strong relationships and sustainable programs. It's based on a blend of research evidence and practitioner wisdom. One of those practitioners may or may not be on this call right now, but will be highlighted later in the presentation. Does not specify program models or focus, but does recommend guideposts of quality mentoring services and does not directly apply to informal or naturally found mentoring relationships. The new elements of effective practice is aligned with the new and updated National Quality Mentoring System process that several of our programs, including several of you, go through, now aligned with the Mentoring Connector. So for those of you that are up for NQMS this year, this new elements will be very beneficial to you. History of the EEPM. Mentor first published this resource in 1991. Subsequent editions have grown in scope and complexity. Research evidence became integrated starting with the 3rd edition, and the current edition cites hundreds of peer-reviewed journal articles. Working groups of program staff keep it grounded in reality, and resource has adapted and changed. The resource has adapted and changed as the mentoring movement has expanded and diversified. So some of the most common complaints about the elements is that it hasn't been as applicable to peer mentoring models or group mentoring models that have diverse models within its own program. And so this specific edition is much more applicable to that. The core principles. No one program model is right. It's all about how it's all about how well you do what you do. And we always say at Mentor Vermont that the mentoring practitioners are the experts in the room, and we just have more resources to provide and support you. Programs should learn and apply research evidence to their work when applicable. All mentoring services need to be adapted to local needs, resources, and values. And the quality of mentoring is just as important as scale. So if we are intervening in people's lives, we must do it well. How has the field used this resource? Existing programs use it to contemplate and make improvements in their services. Startup programs use it as a roadmap to program design, considerations, and figuring out details of service delivery. Funders and policymakers use it to craft their investments in mentoring or to vet applicants. Training and technical assistance providers use it as a starting point for program improvement work. and researchers use it to identify potential inputs into program outcomes. Additionally, we are able to use this as our tool within advocacy and lobbying, particularly during National Mentoring Month, because all of our programs that receive funding from us that go through NQMS are aligned with elements of effective practice for mentoring, which is our evidence-based resource and tool. So why make a new addition? Mentoring programs often struggle to reach their desired outcomes for youth right now. Program design and implementation challenges exacerbate this. Our field continues to diversify in terms of models, desired outcomes, integration with other supports, etc. New research is illuminating nuances of best practice. The values and norms of our field are constantly evolving. We need modern advice for today's modern mentoring programs. And Mentor National wanted to improve the ease of use of the resource. So this is the project working group that helped Mentor National and their research team develop this resource. And our very own Chad Butt was on the project working group and helped inform this new edition. And so he was coming with all of you and the feedback that he's gotten from programs here in Vermont to bring to inform how this new edition was created. So thank you, Chad, lifting you up. So what's included in the new edition? What should you expect? There's much more emphasis on program values and ethics, program design and theory of change, youth voice and community engagement, practices related to inclusion and belonging for all youth, program infrastructure, staffing, and capacity, and program evaluation and metrics tracking. Now, those of you who have done this before or are familiar with our older edition will remember that there are a certain amount of elements. The elements have increased to 16 elements, but the training is digestible. This is how it's structured. So we have a section for foundations of quality mentoring and programs. This is focused on program values and strong program design. So these practices lay the foundation for your mentoring work and will influence how you approach the practices recommended throughout the rest of the resource. Section 2 are the elements of effective mentoring services. So a lot of these will be familiar to you from the original elements. These practices address how you deliver mentoring services and interact with youth, parents, and caregivers, and your mentors. These practices follow the life cycle of a mentoring relationship from initial recruitment through transitions out of the program. And then section 3, practices to support organizational health. These practices help ensure that the mentoring program is functioning well operationally and has the leadership, staffing, and financial sustainability to thrive over time. So I will make sure that everybody has a copy of this and you can have access to the new elements so that you can review this. It looks like it's a lot, but I promise that it's so much better and more efficient for your actual application of the elements to your programs. Each of the elements chapters contain a standard of practice for the element. So, and then the specific practices that support the element, a few optional practices, but for the most part, these are the everyone should do at some level tasks, and then additional considerations for group models, peer-to-peer models, e-mentoring, school and site-based, and youth development programs offering informal mentoring experiences. This shift in language, standard of practice, and practices that support the element is an adjustment, but it is how we are going to be talking about the different elements and um, how you apply those. Each of the element chapters also contain a discussion section that reviews research and offers more practice details. These are a gold mine of information and will answer many questions about the why behind the practice. And then reflection questions for practitioners. So these are answering, these encourage programs to build programs that are conceptually strong. And then what can you expect when you dive in? Comprehensive guidance and a deep dive on current research, information that will help you make the case that you run quality services and why you do what you do. Easier to understand core practices, empowerment of mentoring professionals to customize what services look like, great new information around inclusive practices and the values that should inform this work, and helpful advice on evaluation. So let's do a pause for questions. Anybody have questions so far? That's a lot of information. No, that's okay. I'll reshare my screen. Oh, Matthew? No? Okay. I just wanted to make sure I gave you all an opportunity. We'll continue. Okay. How can we access the resource? Mentor's new dedicated website, which our chat champion, Chad, will, that's a fun alliteration. Chat champion Chad will drop in the chat. You can also find this on our website. It will link to this site because what Mentor has created is just so great and efficient. Um, so you can access it right from your dashboard. But I do recommend bookmarking this in your bookmarks bar. On the website, you essentially will have an overview of what to expect, and then you can download the full resource and checklists, as well as download the individual chapter PDFs. This will eventually be available as a print elements that we can purchase through Amazon. I am still waiting for when that will be available to everybody publicly. So they will, oh, I just talked about all of this. Great, sorry, I got ahead of myself. There's also a one-page graphic for easy sharing, and a Spanish translation will be coming in 2025. So how can this resource support our work? Existing programs. So you can review the new practices to see if there are areas where you could bolster what you're already doing. Also, when you go through NQMS, because the NQMS is aligned with the new elements, you're going to be going through that process anyway. You can revisit your theory of change and what is the why behind the actions your mentors take. The new elements also have a really great walkthrough on logic models and how to create one. Think about whether you are effectively incorporating the perspectives of youth, family, and mentors in your work. Align program infrastructure with program ambition and improve your evaluation efforts at all levels. For brand new programs, this is your roadmap to figuring out what your program might look like. So relationship structure, staff supports, etc. Good additional guidance for those building programs in schools and youth development settings, aligning program activities with program goals, and determining where you need additional help. Things you can contemplate as you review these practices. where what might we need to align with these recommendations? Where might we want to do things differently? And how do these recommendations fit our program? So setting mentor-mentee configurations, staffing, youth served, and program life cycle. And then most importantly, this resource is not about compliance with cookie cutter model of mentoring. There isn't one mentoring program that is exactly the same as another. So having a resource like this is really valuable because we can know that while no one mentoring program is the same, all mentoring programs are striving for quality so that they can have quality mentoring relationships. It is about empowering you to build the best program you can through evidence-informed practices. And if you innovate or do things differently, that's great. Just make sure that you emphasize safety and evaluate how well your approach is working. You might just generate the evidence for the next round of best practices. You just have to talk to Chad. And then training and TA support. So you don't have to figure any of this out all on your own. Mentor Vermont is standing by to offer training on the new elements, which will be coming this year as a training series, and technical assistance consultations, TA, including free support through the National Mentoring Resource Center. And then there is a 3-part webinar series in late spring summer hosted by Mentor National. It should be noted that this 3-part webinar series is not a training on the elements, but it is an overview of the elements. So questions? It's a lot jumping from, I think we had 8 elements to 16 elements is it feels like it's double the information, but really how we have outlined it and how Mentor National has made it is really much more applicable to your programs.
I'll just echo that. I think in going through this and working with National on it, they did a great job of pulling in just an understanding of each program's different, and the people that know the most about how to run their program are the people that are in the community running the program and not some researcher. And so trying to figure out how to couple those things together so that research plays a part in it, but really that we're learning from local practitioners and that this element speaks in a way in which people can take what they see and adapt it to where they are.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Chad. And the training for the elements has also been updated so that as you go through, there's a lot of experiential learning happening, and you're really learning how to apply these practices to your program. Right. Well, if there are no questions, I am going to stop the recording and provide resources to everybody following up. I would ask that those who are on the call stay on the call so we can have a discussion about the best opportunity and structure for our training series later in the year. So
Sarah, do you mind
thank you.
just sharing? Can you just share the National Mentoring Month webpage just real quick while we got it on, just so we can have that on
On the
as well?
recording?
Just sort of scroll through it and just I want to recognize the folks that are sponsoring the month as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Give me 1 second. It's a good call, Chad. Thank you. Let me pull those up briefly. All right. There's screen 2. Okay, so this is the Mentor National website, Element of Effective Practice for Mentoring resource. When you click Explore the new resource, it brings you to their new webpage. And I realized I didn't show you how I got here. So when you go to mentoring.org and you go to What We Do, you will find Elements of Effective Practice for Mentoring under Research and Train. Explore the new resource brings you to eepm.mentoring.org, which is their new website specifically for the elements. You'll see a resource home, and about, and an elements drop-down menu if you want to go to a specific one. You can download the full resource and checklist here, but then as you scroll down, you'll find these additional cards that will bring you to a web page dedicated directly to that resource. And again, we have the standard of practice and practices supporting the standard as our new language for the elements. On Mentor Vermont's webpage, I realized that I wanted to show you this first. You go to resources for youth professionals in the upper left-hand corner or through resources, youth mentoring professionals, and scroll down. You'll find that you can also access and go directly to that page here because we wanted to make it as easy as possible so you don't have to have multiple bookmarked pages. But then if you go to resources, National Mentoring Month on the Mentor Vermont webpage, you'll also find more about our upcoming coffee hour next week, the Ambassadors of Mentoring program, all of the days to think about that we're highlighting for the month. And today is International Mentoring Day. That's great. And then as you keep scrolling down, you'll have the toolkits that you can download and National Mentoring Month brought to you by all of these wonderful sponsors. So thank you to all of them for helping us highlight mentoring. Our gold sponsor is Comcast and NBC Universal, and then we have silver sponsors and bronze sponsors. Well, thank you again for your time and happy National Mentoring Month.